let's talk about something you think you know inside and out, zodiac signs. But what if I told you pretty much everything you've heard about them, especially the part about constellations, is wrong? We're going to strip it all back and look at the hidden geometry and the seasonal cycles behind the zodiac. Trust me, by the end of this, you'll see the whole thing in a completely new light. All right, so first things first, we have to clear the air and talk about what most people get wrong. Because honestly, this is where all the confusion starts. Let's just dive right in. The biggest myth, the one you hear absolutely everywhere, is that your zodiac sign is some group of stars, a constellation way up there in the night sky. Yeah, no, flat out, they are not. This is the fundamental misunderstanding we're going to tear down today. And you've probably seen those articles that pop up every few years, right? The ones about NASA discovering a 13th sign, Ophiuchus, and how it supposedly changes everything. Nope. As you're about to see, discovering new star patterns has literally zero impact on how the zodiac system actually works. And then there's the big one, the argument that sounds super scientific. It's that the Earth kind of wobbles on its axis over thousands of years. That's a real thing called precession, and because of that, the signs don't line up with their original constellations anymore. That doesn't break it either. Look, precession is a totally real astronomical fact, but it doesn't dismantle the system at all. So, if it's not about the stars, what in the world is it about? This is where it gets really cool. So let's build this thing from the ground up. I want you to completely forget about stars for a minute. We're starting with nothing but pure, simple geometry. Everything kicks off with the Earth's orbit around the sun. You know, that path it takes every year. It's a circle, a complete 360-degree journey. Now, picture that 360-degree path. And imagine we take it and we slice it up into 12 perfectly equal pieces, like you're cutting a pizza. And you don't have to be a math genius for this next part. 360 degrees divided by 12 slices, that gives you 30 degrees per slice. So each of these 12 segments of space is exactly 30 degrees wide. And this is the big reveal. A zodiac sign is not a constellation. It's a specific 30-degree slice of space along our planet's orbit. So when someone asks you, what's your sign? What they're actually asking is, hey, in which of these 12 geometric zones was the sun when you were born? See, it's about location, not a bunch of stars. Okay, so you might be wondering, if they're just these geometric slices of empty space, what stops them from just, floating around? What holds them in place? The answer is something incredibly reliable: our seasons. This whole system is locked in place by 4 key moments in Earth's year. The zodiac always begins at 0 degrees of Aries, and that point is permanently fixed to the first day of spring in the northern hemisphere. Then 0 degrees Cancer marks the summer solstice, Libra gets the autumn equinox, and Capricorn gets the winter solstice. Think of these 4 points as the north, south, east, and west of a giant cosmic compass. And because they're tied to the seasons, the dates for the signs stay the same, year after year after year. All right, so now that we get that the signs are all about geometry and seasons, let's go back to those myths we started with and see exactly why they just don't hold water. This is the part where it all clicks into place. This analogy just nails it. Thousands of years ago, ancient astronomers used the constellations as a handy visual backdrop, like wallpaper, to figure out where the sun was in its 360-degree journey. The constellations were just like the numbers on a clock face. They're helpful markers, sure, but the hands are what actually tell you the time. The sun's position was the hands of the clock. The stars were never the source of the meaning. Right, but what about that wobble, that precession argument? It's true, the Earth does wobble very slowly, like a spinning top. And over thousands of years, that changes our view of the background stars. So today, the constellation we call Aries isn't actually behind the sun during the season of Aries anymore. And this analogy just makes it all so clear. Imagine you're sitting in a spinning office chair. Your position in the room, where your chair is, that doesn't change. But your view of the walls and the furniture is constantly changing as you spin. The zodiac is based on our fixed position in Earth's orbit. That's you in the chair. Precession, that's just the room spinning around you. It changes our background view, but it doesn't change where we actually are. So this is the million-dollar question, right? If the meanings of the signs don't come from the stars, where on Earth did they come from? Well, it wasn't just guesswork. It was this incredibly long process of observation. This whole process is called rectification, and that's really just a fancy term for a massive, centuries-long research project. Ancient astrologers would track and record exactly where the planets were inside these 30-degree segments. At the same time, they were documenting all these patterns in human behavior, in events, in emotional climates. And over generations, they started to see that certain planetary positions consistently lined up with certain kinds of experiences. Those long-term observable patterns are what became the core meanings for each sign. And it gets even cooler. Each sign also gets its unique flavor from a combination of 3 basic qualities. It's kind of like a recipe. There's a polarity, which is basically about whether the energy is directed outward or inward. There's a modality, which asks, does this energy start things, stabilize things, or adapt to things? And finally, there's an element, fire, earth, air, or water. So it's the unique mix of these 3 ingredients that gives each 30-degree slice of the year its specific vibe. It's less of a personality label and more a description of how energy works. So let's wrap this up. The key things to remember are, zodiac signs are just geometric slices of Earth's orbit, 30 degrees each. They are locked into place by the seasons, not the background stars. The meanings we have for them came from centuries of careful observation. And all that stuff about precession or new constellations, it doesn't matter, because that only changes our background view, not the actual structure of the system itself. So that leaves us with a really fascinating thought. If the zodiac is a structured system based on geometry and seasonal patterns, it's really less about belief and more about cycles, which has to make you wonder, right? What other cycles, maybe in our culture, in the economy, even in nature, might we be able to observe and understand through this ancient framework? Something to think about. Thanks for watching.